Well, hello and welcome to the very first 30 Under 30 Changemakers Award. I am thrilled to be your host this afternoon. My name is Debbie Beeney and I am on the team at the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. We are thrilled to be able to share with you the fantastic group of young leaders that we have identified for the 30 Under 30 Changemakers Awards. Before we get started with that, let me just tell you a little bit about what this award program is about and how we came up with the idea. So I think most of you know that this is National Charter Schools Week, and we are celebrating also the 30th anniversary of the very first charter law, which was written into law in Minnesota. And from that kernel of an idea spawned this awesome movement that has touched millions of lives. Young people, their educators, families, communities, and who were thinking, what's the best way to acknowledge this 30th anniversary? And of course, it's natural at times like this to look back and give respect to those who came before, to people who have been, like the foundation, the backbone of the movement. But I also think it's really important to look forward. And when I look at what young people are doing today, I look across the globe, I look at the environmental activists, and I look at people that are fighting for the rights of Indigenous people, people who are fighting for gun controls. Young people are rising up and using their voices in such powerful ways. And education is for young people. It is their issue more than anyone else's. So it seemed fitting that we would look to identify young leaders who embody that spirit of bold fierceness that brought us the charter school movement, and just to lift them up today and celebrate them. Now, there are way more people than this 30 Under 30 that we have identified today, but they are an awesome bunch. They make me proud to be associated with the charter school sector. And I'm going to get to talk to several of them this afternoon. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to have some fun together. Got to do a couple shout outs while I'm here. I know that there's a team in Arizona from Basis Ed with my friend Deanna Rowe, who is doing a little watch party. So excited to see you. Welcome. And I believe we also have some friends in Nashville from Ms. Lagra Newman's team. So I want to thank you as well. They were the group that nominated Jalen Ramsey for his spot on the 30 Under 30. So great to have you here. So here we are. It's our 30th anniversary. Let's get things kicked off and let's meet some of these fantastic young people. And before we get into the fun interviews and videos that we've got lined up today, I want to ask our president and CEO, Nina Reese, to please give us some opening remarks.
This week, the National Alliance is celebrating National Charter Schools Week. It's a week to lift up the nearly 7,500 public charter schools around the nation. And in doing so, we shine a light on the students, families, teachers, and school leaders who make up the thriving ecosystem that is the charter school movement. A movement made of people who believe all kids should have public access to an excellent education that puts their needs and achievements at the center. This year is special. This year, we commemorate the 30th anniversary of the first charter school law. Passed in 1991 by the Minnesota legislature, it was designed to unleash public education from conventions. And the next year, City Academy in St. Paul, Minnesota, would go on to become the nation's first charter school when it opened its doors in 1992. Its founders, all veteran public school teachers, had tried but failed to create new programs for struggling students in their own schools. City Academy launched a movement that has since grown to encompass more than 219,000 teachers in 43 states and serving more than 3.3 million students and families. To say that the future of public education was forever changed 30 years ago would be an understatement. As you can imagine, significant anniversaries like this certainly lead one to reflect back. But today, I want to focus on the future and the remarkable individuals who are leading us into the next 30 years and beyond. Today, we honor young leaders who are leveraging their ideas, talents, and platforms to advance educational and economic opportunity and promote equality and social justice. Our 30 under 30 changemakers are students, activists, educators, and school leaders across the country who are having an outsized impact in their community via arts, writing, politics, leadership, science, and social justice. They're all under the age of 30 and have strong ties to their local charter schools as students, alumni, teachers, and leaders. More than 100 people were nominated, each more impressive than the next. As the nominations poured in, we looked for individuals who demonstrated impact, commitment, and originality. We are humbled to honor changemakers like Darnell Frazier, a senior at Augsburg Fairview Academy in Minnesota, who bravely witnessed and documented the unjust death of George Floyd while in police custody last summer. Her video sparked a national reckoning around race in America that will resonate for years to come. And Katrina Alifi, who has devoted the last 8 years of her career to teaching dance in New York City, piloting and founding 2 dance programs for middle and high schoolers. Her program centers around student voice, prioritizes family communication, and provides a space for students to feel empowered to express their art. She is a leading voice in performing arts education in the charter school sector. These are just 2 examples of students and leaders who have demonstrated the strength and resilience of the charter school movement over the past 30 years. It's my pleasure to honor the inspiring work of Darnella, Katrina, and all of the amazing changemakers. Let's learn a little more about our first group of honorees in the fields of arts, writing, and sports.
Well, thank you for sharing that awesome first video that just takes my breath away. Kyle Denman, I'd love to have a conversation with you as our first honoree this evening. So you describe yourself as a political scientist with a passion for fashion. And I can see from your background that you are all about your fashion. Love it. Um, so I'm wondering, do you still get excited about the political science part of you? Or given all of the things that are happening in the state of politics in this country, have you cooled on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's really beautiful about political science is that if you really break it down, it is the study of people and of how people interact with each other. So being able to take that perspective and really utilize it for fashion, which is really the most basic form of communication for people, really has just been ingrained in everything that I've been able to do at New Village Girls Academy. So I think with a lot of the current events that are currently going on, I think it's difficult not to separate the love of political science that I once had and still do have when I was back in college.
So speaking of college, now I recently moved to Miami, Florida, and I saw that you went to Miami University. And I got all excited. I'm like, oh my God, we've got a Miami connection, but we don't really because
Yes.
your college is actually in Ohio. But anywho, with that said, I was wondering if you could just kind of talk me through what happened for you in Miami, at Miami University, that sparked this change in you to go a completely different path. Because you were a political science major and actually graduate. Your undergraduate degree is in that.
Yeah. So I was actually conducting research with the Scripps Gerontology Center. And so I was working with their nonprofit, Opening Minds Through Art. I was researching how art has an impact on people who have dementia and Alzheimer's and other neurocognitive disorders. I fell in love with it. I've always loved art growing up, but to see that art has such a profound impact on people, even at the very late stages of their lives, that sparked such a huge, huge curiosity for me of what can I do for the rest of my life that can continue to improve people's lives through art, through something that is so organic and beautiful. I mean, we would see people who have had Alzheimer's and dementia for years all of a sudden remember things from their childhood. They would, improve themselves in their motor skills and their cognitive functions. And just to see that beautiful connection, I had to ask myself, what kind of art exists in everyone's life on a daily basis?
That's really beautiful.
Yeah,
So tell me, I'm a parent. I have a child who finished college a little while ago. What did your parents have to think about this big career switch?
I think a lot of people in my life, not just my parents, were incredibly confused. But once I explained it to them, they were incredibly supportive. And it's really fun for me because not only do I get to do all the fashion and art at New Village, but I also still get to be involved in sort of the policy aspect, the charter renewal process, the grants, all of that kind of stuff. So for me, this is really kind of a dream job.
Okay, so it sounds to me like the role that you have right now at New Village Girls Academy just kind of brings together all the parts of you and just kind of fuses together all the things that bring you joy and passion. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about some of the girls that you work with and how they inspire you.
They're my closest friends, honestly. I originally got involved with New Village about 4 years ago when I was a volunteer mentor. So I was mentoring students twice a week for just a couple of hours a week in fashion design. And I fell in love with it. I was very fortunate that the school eventually offered me this full-time position. But New Village is a very special place. We only have about 105 students currently, but New Village is a school for girls who typically have high academic and social emotional needs due to their experiencing trauma. So some of our students have been unhoused. Some of our students have been, survivors of human trafficking or domestic abuse. Some of them have been impacted by the foster system or the juvenile justice system. And so for me, the connection with students goes so much further than educator student. Really, they have become my closest friends. I could go on and on and on about the progress I've seen in them, but also everything that they've taught me as well. I think just as much as any of us at New Village as adults, as much as we have taught any of them, they have taught us probably tenfold. It's something beautiful. I mean, to see a student like Rena just fall in love with fashion, or Bernice, who hadn't been at school for over 2 years in person, had been, you know, in 5 other high schools before this, just blossom here, come into her own. That to me is something so beautiful. And just to have a little part of that experience for them is something that is just life changing.
I can see that. Well, Kyle, I enjoy fashion myself, and I couldn't have you here and let you go without trying to get a little bit of a fall fashion forecast. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about patterns. So listen, I'm seeing the patterns everywhere. I'm seeing the flowers with like the plaid and like the polka dots and the stripes. They're all mixing together and the colors are wild. And I want to do it, but I am afraid that my clothes won't match and I'll look crazy. So how should one go about trying to do this pattern thing?
I think it goes back to some of the things that I teach my students in fashion. When people say to think outside the box, I think that's honestly kind of an incorrect statement. There is no box for us to even think outside of. We are, we have no limits. There's no limit to the human capacity to create, whether that be something physical, something tangible, something more abstract. Go for it. There's no limits.
Wow. All right. Well, Kyle, you are an inspiration. You have a beautiful soul. Thank you for bringing that to the charter movement. And it's just been wonderful to have you here with us. So thank
Much,
you.
Debbie.
Thank you so much for sharing your passion and for making a difference in the lives of girls who really,
Thank
really.
you.
So congratulations to Kyle and to all of the Changemakers who are in the category of arts, writing, and sports. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the next category, which is education and politics. Well, next I'd like to talk with Lauren Renford. I'd like to introduce us all to Lauren. You just saw a bit of her story. And Lauren, we have something in common. I grew up in Washington, D.C. too. So I grew up there long time ago, and the city has certainly changed a lot since the time that I was growing up, and probably since you were a kid too, right? Um, but I'm wondering if you could tell me what are some of your favorite things about the city that you and I both call home that have not changed?
I was super excited to learn about that link between us two. I think that you probably know that DC was also nicknamed Chocolate City.
Mhm.
Um, um, back in the 80s when it was a thriving Black mecca, to say the least. And that's my main um, favorite thing about the city. I have an ultimate goal to be living Black history, and I don't think there's a better place to do it than Washington D.C. Of course, that comes with inequity, being a predominantly Black city, and as that's changing, there's still so much room and so many ways that you see that rich culture come out. So that's my favorite thing about home.
Awesome. I think my favorite thing about home might be the wharf. I love
Mm.
going down and getting crabs in the
I'm right across the street from it.
So cool. Well, unfortunately, some things about our beloved hometown and city have changed. Um, and some things have not. One of the things that has not changed is that our brothers and sisters are still getting slaughtered every day. And that is just awful. That so many people are being killed by gun violence. And I know that's your area of activism. Um, you were in high school, I believe, when two people who went to school with you were killed. How did that experience change you?
Yeah, so I was in 11th grade when my school, Thurgood Marshall Academy, it's in Anacostia.
I know it.
It's a big red one. Um, I was a junior when I lost two of my classmates, Paris and Zaire. Zaire was my boyfriend, and Paris was a classmate, and that just sent a ripple effect through what felt like the entire city to me. And I noticed like I wasn't the only one grieving, but ultimately, as I went through my grieving process, I realized Zaire's story is not isolated. Paris's story is not isolated, and that so many girlfriends, mothers, brothers, and sisters had gone through the same grieving that I had. So ultimately, made me more aware of my surroundings, and more empathetic, because I think it's super easy to live in a city like this where we see new headlines on the news every day about homicides, and to become desensitized to that, or say, oh, that doesn't, I don't know that person, so it doesn't really affect me. But I think that experience has done so much for me, but mainly has helped me empathize, and be more aware of the things that are happening around me.
Wow. So can you tell me a little bit about the organization that you co-founded, Pathways to Power?
hmm So I talked a little bit about it, but that ripple effect um, was also super present in my high school, when we lost both of those students. And there was lots of grief, but that grief was followed by an action and a desire to use our voices. So um, me and about 4 or 5 of my classmates literally sat in my government teacher, whose name is Miss Lee's, room. I went to a law themed high school, so her classroom is like actually like a courtroom. So we sat in the front of the courtroom and brainstormed words, um, and ultimately came up with Pathways to Power. But for so long we were doing the work without a name, and we thought it just made the most sense to join forces and do all of that work together. So I mean, our main goal, Pathways still exists in my high school. At its time of founding, it was all seniors, and we didn't want that to die just because we were graduating. But there's still young leaders at my high school and at others around the city carrying that legacy, and telling our peers that we don't have to accept the deaths of our young peers as a norm. And we think of violence as a tree. And there's root causes to that tree, like homelessness, like poverty, like toxic mentalities that deem violence normal. And our main goal is to attack all of those so that we can save lives.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So you're a public health major at George Washington University.
Yes.
Awesome. How do you think you will use your training in public health to integrate with your advocacy work around gun violence?
It's super funny because I turned in my last paper last night. So I'm officially a junior, but I always joke, thank you. I always joke that I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. I think something about special about digital age babies is that literally new jobs come out every day, and they're all equally as impactful. But although I don't know what I want to be when I graduate, I believe that public health provides me that lens to look at everything holistically and say, okay, what are the gaps we need to fill? So I just think a public health degree will, give me that holistic approach and those tools so that I can ultimately preserve not only my generation, but those to come.
As a gun violence advocate, what do you think is the most important message that you need to get out there? And who do you think needs to hear that?
Mm-hmm. I think everyone can benefit from hearing that you don't have to wait till tragedy to act. I was drafted into this world of advocacy after grief, after I experienced the super sudden death of someone I loved. But I'm always telling people younger than me, people older than me, that you do not have to wait till it penetrates your world. I believe that one loss is all of our loss, and it's on all of us to think about solutions to fix that. And I think once we all tap into that communal mentality, that we'll see real change.
So you have such like a light spirit and always a beautiful smile on your face. How do you keep that positive attitude when you're dealing with people that are grieving and hurting? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I was super lucky enough to have a high school and a mother that really valued my mental health after I suffered the loss of my boyfriend. And it was through those channels like counseling and therapy that I was exposed to outlets that helped me soar, honestly. And I think now even the work I'm lucky enough to do still fuels my passion, and I'm super lucky to be doing it simply. So, all the outlets I have, I'm super thankful for.
So how can we support your work? What would you tell each one of us who are listening to you today, one small thing that we could do that would help to make a difference?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've already touched on it a little bit, but literally um, having empathy for your neighbors, whether they live next door to you or across the city from you, but also valuing the experiences of young people. I think because we are young, that our opinions are often discounted when it's simply the truth that we are the experts of our own experiences. So one, tapping into more empathy, and two, valuing the voices of young people, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
It was wonderful talking with you. Congratulations again to you and to all of the change makers in education and politics.
Thank you.
And coming up next, we are going to look at this next incredible group that I think is going to blow you away. So let's learn now about the change makers in leadership. So next, we're going to be talking with Kalyn Rodgers. And we saw a little bit of your story in the video here, but this is a most interesting story. So you are now the leader, the principal of the school that you attended as a kid. How wild is that? So when you were a kid, did you ever walk around the school and say to yourself, now if I were in charge, I would change some things around here. We have like more recess, like, more snacks, less homework, less tests. So now that you are leading the school, what are some of the things that you've changed?
Hey, one of the things, coming up at school that I decided to change was the cell phone policy. That was one of the biggest thing. It was, it's like no cell phones all day until, we get out of school. And so it's like, it's more of a, hey, we are living in a technology age. Let's give the kids some slack with a little bit of use of technology. So that was one of the things. I think that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to change, because I know how it felt to be, trying to sneak in texts, and you get called. I got called a few times. So so as I got here, I know my first year here was a lot of phone violations, and so as we made it into my second year, phone violations went down and down because we started letting students use their phones during lunch before school, and so it was one of those huge things that I changed.
Oh, see, so you are pretty cool. I mean, they might not have more recess, but they can use their phones more. That's good.
Yep.
That's good. So a lot of the staff and probably a lot of the parents even are younger than you. And I'm wondering how you feel like your youthfulness is an advantage. I'm thinking the cell phone example might be one, but wondering about other ways that your youthfulness is really an advantage in your leadership role.
So coming in, I was at a school prior to coming here, and it was a bigger high school, probably about 1,200, 1,300 students. And we had different types of programs and different things in that nature. So coming here, I decided to bring the big school environment to the small school environment. So I started the things that we was doing in the big school, necessarily doing it here. And so I started to bring it to Calhoun Falls, and they started to like it, and they started to trust me. On July 1st, you get an email, the staff get an email saying, hey, here's your new principal. He's 24 years old coming in, and you have veteran teachers that's like teaching longer than I've been living. And so you're kind of like, oh crap, what is going on? But the staff is amazing. I went in with a game plan. They, ended up trusting me, and it didn't take long to get that trust. And we just start going with it, and they had my back, and I had their back.
That is awesome. So you're a really busy guy. You're leading the school, you're coaching the track and field team, you're driving the school bus. How do you have time for all of these things? And do you ever have any time for yourself?
So my first year, I was at the school basically probably 7 days a week, working day in and day out. Of course, my first year here, I think the thing that makes me keep going is I'm doing things that I love. Coaching track and field. I got to continue to coach that. I've been coaching since 2016. Driving a school bus. That's always been a lifelong dream for me. And this school gave me that opportunity to go get my license when I was a senior in high school. So, being able to come back, and, we didn't have buses. We've been open for about 12, 13 years. And that was one of my first things was we need to get a school bus route. And so we finally got that going. And I drive it every morning, picking up students, and hopefully we can, get it going in the afternoon, and I can drop off students. So that was one of my dreams that I can finally check off. So we finally have a school bus route, and I'm busy, but it's things that I love to do. It's not I'm forced being doing it. It's just I love to do those things, and so um, my weekends, now I take my weekends for myself. So Monday through Friday is strictly school, and my weekends for myself.
Good for you. Well, you are just a dynamo. I still don't know how you do it all. And one of the other things that we should talk about while I have you here is that your school is phenomenal. Not only is it, a great place culturally and the rest of it, but your kids are like really doing quite well academically. You have one of the highest rated schools in the country. So that's a big honor. I'm sure you must be proud. Um, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about the kids that you serve, because I think that would provide even more context and help everyone understand how really, really significant it is for you to have that honor.
So first and foremost, I have an amazing staff. They are top tier, and they work day in and day out with these students. I have a great admin team. My assistant principal, she is amazing. She's been here since the school opened. She actually was my assistant principal when I was in school. And so, stepping into that role, it was kind of like, oh, okay. But when I tell you she has my back, I have her back. She is just absolutely amazing. And so the staff that we have, they really work hard with our kids. We have about 84% free and reduced social economic status, and our kids. We're in a rural area. We're in a town about 1,800 people population, and kids. We have about 158 students here on campus. So we get a lot of one-to-one, and our kids know that our teachers care, and they really care about each and every one of them, and they know every child that they teach. And so with that drive and that determination that our teachers have, they carry it on to the students, and it just pushes them to go the extra mile. And if one is slacking, you know,
Mhm.
they like, hey, I can call a parent, or we can go right outside to the car loop and say, hey, can I, we have a teacher that needs to speak to you about something. So nothing slides through the crack here. So we are constantly on our students. And so that's one of the biggest things that I love about the school, the great staff, students, and we just a community school that just can talk to parents easy.
That is awesome. I love your school too. I've never set foot in it, but as soon as I can travel again, I definitely want to travel there. And I want to see the magic happening in action. Kalyn Rodgers makes things happen. Thank you so much for being with us today. And also, I want to congratulate all of the leaders in your category of leadership who are truly making a difference in the lives of so many students. The success of the charter school movement really is dependent upon the same type of selflessness, this passion that leaders like you bring to the work. I can't thank you enough for everything that you do. And it is now my pleasure to introduce the next category of brilliant changemakers. Meet the 6 brilliant minds in the category of science. Mari, I am so excited to talk to you. So you're 14 years old, is that right?
I'm 13. I'm not 14.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't want to get there. 13 years old. And you are a water conservationist, and an environmental activist.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I'm pretty sure that when I was 13, I didn't even know what a water conservationist was. I might have been able to piece together the other half of it, environmental activism, but I'm not sure. Anyway, what led you to get involved in this cause?
So what had led me to get involved with this cause, like with the water and stuff like that, was basically, my town had a flood water crisis and a lot of people were getting sick. And my little sister, she had got really bad rashes from the water, and it made me really devastated and sad. And I wanted to do something to help about it. So then, yeah, I started doing my thing, and then that's why I'm here now.
Wow. So one of the things that you did was you wrote a letter to President Obama.
Mhm.
He got the letter,
Mhm.
came to Flint,
Mhm.
gave your town like a crazy amount of money. What was it, like $100 million or some sort of thing like this?
Mhm.
Okay, to help with the water crisis. How old were you when you wrote that letter?
I was 8.
Whoa, okay, I am such an underachiever. Okay, so you were 8 when you wrote the letter to the president. Did you get to meet him when he came to
Yes.
town?
Yes, I did in fact get to meet him.
So how did it feel to know that your letter as an 8-year-old had that kind of impact on your community?
I felt very, 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 very powerful knowing that little 8-year-old Mari could write a letter and it actually gets seen by Mr. President Obama, and then like he just decides to write you back and like come to Flint to meet you. Like that's really cool. That's cool.
I would say so. I think that's very cool. I think that's very, very cool. Now, you also you've done so many amazing things in your 13 years. It's just astounding to me. So one of the things is you raised about $250,000 to help get clean drinking water to people in your town. And by the way, you've got some fans here tonight. You've got so much hometown love. I'm seeing it all coming up in the chat. So know that your people are crazy about you, and for all the good reasons. So you raised $250,000 for clean drinking water. That's amazing. So I got to ask you this. Have you thought about politics? Fundraising is a really important component of being able to win political office. You ever thought about that?
Okay, so first, I just raised $500,000 for my water filters. So that's one thing. That's one thing I did. And I'm very, very, very proud of myself because I hit the goal. So now I will be able to send out my filters nationwide to people who need clean, safe drinking water. And yes, I do in fact want to run for president. I want to run for president in 2044. So please do vote for me.
Well, I do public relations, so keep me in mind. And when you need the person to be your press secretary, I think I won't be too old by then, but keep me in mind because I'd love
Got
to support you. Um, what are you going to do this summer? Tell me, what are your plans for the summer? You going to kick back a little bit?
Okay. So some of my plans for the summer before I go into high school. Yeah. I don't really know. I do gotta be excited for my birthday because like my birthday's inside the summertime. That's
When's your
one thing
birthday?
I'm excited
When's your
about.
birthday?
My birthday is July 6th, so that's one thing I'm excited about for the summer. I'm not sure if I can do something big like a party this year though, because COVID, but like I'm not really sure what all I can do this year, but I'm still gonna have tons of fun. And I am in fact gonna do probably some cool projects during the summer too.
Very cool. Well, I'll be happy to like virtually celebrate your birthday with you. Little party horn. Give me a call. What's your favorite subject in school?
What is my okay, hold on. What is my favorite subject in school? I didn't think this through.
Okay, well, what do you think you're best at?
Okay, I would say the thing I'm probably slightly kind of best at right now is actually math. I'm not playing when I say that either. I wish I was joking about that, but I think I'm doing really good inside math. I mean, I remember on this like one math test thingy, it was about geometry, and he was like, you gotta get like a 4 out of 4, and like you can get like a 4 out of 4 or 3 out of 4. And it was first time, like I was first trying to do it, I got a 4 out of 4. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then he was like, and then my math teacher, Mr. Moody, he was like, oh, I used to be really good at geometry. Like you always really look at geometry, so like you're doing good. Like that's one subject I think I'm really good at. And also I think my favorite subject in school actually has to be either social studies or ELA. No, it's ELA. It's just
ELA?
Yeah.
ELA.
Yeah.
Well, I got one final thing I want to ask you about before I let you go. So you're also working with the Michigan Department of Education, and you're sitting on this Anti-Racism Student Advisory Council. Can you tell me a little bit about that work, and then if any of that intersects with the environmental work that you do as well?
Okay, so basically the whole like board thing of them, I was like, it's a board where kids get to tell adults their opinions and on racism for schools and stuff. And we just give out like our ideas for like curriculums and stuff like that, so like schools can teach racism inside schools that haven't got taught that. Anti-racism. Oh my god, anti-racism. Just act like I said anti-racism and not racism, because
We got it. You're still flawless. Got it.
Anti-racism. Just act like I said anti-racism, please.
We got it. Anti-racism. So Mari, you are an inspiration. I can't wait to see all of the other things that you're going to do with your life. You give me such hope for the future of our country, of our world, of the charter school movement. So I know that whatever you do, you will be successful at it. And when you're ready to run, I'm good for a check. I will write you your first check. And again, if I'm not like, geriatric, let me know. I'd love to be your press secretary. Thank you so much for being with us today. It has
You're welcome.
been a joy to talk with you. Also, I just want to thank everyone in that category for the fantastic work that these young scientists are doing, changing our world and making it better. And it's just really so inspiring to see how much these young leaders are doing, and particularly Mari, who started her activism in environmentalism as an 8-year-old. Awesome. So our final category of the day is recognizing change makers in the category of social justice. Let's take a look at some of these inspiring individuals. Sadie, thank you so much for being with us today. First of all, you look so beautiful. I really would love you to tell me a little bit more about what you're wearing today. This is an outfit that reflects your cultural heritage. Am I right?
Yeah, this is my regalia, and it was woven by my father. I'm from the Lummi Nation, and we used to weave. We have a long history of our history and culture being kind of ignored. And so, in a lot of experiences that I've had over the past couple years, we actually had to go to museums to see these types of weavings. And it was really inspiring for my dad to start weaving again because he did it so that I won't forget. It also has an apron that goes along with it with the same pattern as the cape. And this is a carving from the Swan family side, which is where we get inspired to have White Swan Environmental. And my hat is made out of cedar, and it was woven by my Auntie Tracy with some old, these are European trade beads. So in the time of the colonizers coming to our land, people would trade goods with each other, and this was one of the items. And then there's a feather here as well that I was gifted on canoe journey, and it is broken, but it's still perfect. And I think that's the person who gave it to me is named Leslie Sheen, and he lives on a place where there's no roads, and he said that he follows spirit. So I was very honored to receive one of his feathers.
Wow, that is so powerful. I'm honored to be with you today. Can you tell me the pronunciation of your full name? And then also, I'd love to know more about what it means and symbolizes.
May I do my introduction in
Please.
Wicklum? Okay. Nautziam, Kwasomat Sanasnat, Cha Uchlamisin, Sahanap E Kusamat, Sunny E Alling, Karen E Virgil Sanastosila, Sally Jack E Herman Olson Sanastosila, Soitzin Ohiluk Quinus Asla Atiakaias, Nuchchisin Maqualia Quinus Enitachel, Nistlit Quinus Qual Aquaquino Squal, Outsen Kachita Uchlami Chasin, E Utatasin Quinus Tunels, Haishka Atia Unaichite. Hello, my dear friends and relatives. My name is Kwasomat. That's my traditional name, and my English name is Sadie Olson. Troy Olson and Shirley Williams are my parents, and their traditional names are Sahanat Pasmin and Kusamat, and I am from the Lummi Nation. I am happy to see all of you here today. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I just wanted to say a few words. I don't know the Lummi language, and I'm still learning how to speak it. Haishka for your good work. I'm from Lummi, and that means that I'm from the traditional territories of the Lummi people, which is also called Nuchuchlami Tenguch, and it moves beyond the border of the United States and Canada, which is where my family lives. I'm from Bellingham, and I have relatives in Saanich, BC, but my grandfather, I'm a descendant of Chief Seattle, and he's from Seattle, which is the Duwamish territory, and that is unceded territory. So there was never really a transfer of land to the city, but people are still living there, and that's where my grandfather comes from.
It's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
So when you're doing your work as an advocate for Indigenous people, of which you are one, what are the issues that are most important to you? And what do you think is most misunderstood about Indigenous people?
I think there's a lot of history that is unspoken in our educational system, and that's something that I really advocated for as I was on the co-founding board of Whatcom Intergenerational High School, because
and I want you to tell me about that too. So
yeah.
but then I want you to go back and tell me about the school that you're helping to found.
Okay. So while I was on that board for the school, I really talked about how while I was at my original high school, which was Ferndale High School, we had a very hard time actually learning about the Coast Salish people of that territory, or my people. And there was a lot of American history spoken about, the United States history that was spoken about, but nobody really had a lot of in-depth things to say about the Coast Salish people. And we're very intelligent people. We had technologies to keep us warm in the cold. We had canoes so that we could travel to each other and travel from island to island. And that includes the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands. We also would have traveling houses with us so that we could smoke salmon and have foods to share the wealth of the land with our relatives. And that was actually a way of allowing the colonizers to survive, because we offered a lot of our knowledge and resources to the guests that were coming into our land. And I feel like there's no honor to our people in this time period. And that was very hard. I know that in the past, I'd say like 40 to 60 years, there has been a change. So we are allowed to speak our traditional language of Wuchlami in Ferndale High School, and we celebrate the Treaty Day ceremony so that the community is aware of the 1855 Point Elliott Treaty. And that is, so if you're unaware of Indigenous peoples, they oftentimes have treaties, and those treaties are in a relationship with the federal government. So there's the local government, which is your city or your county or your state, or your city or your county, and then there's the state government, and then there's the federal government. And so our treaty is the superseding law of the land, similar to the US Constitution. And I feel very fortunate to know about the treaty because my uncles and my father and my community members have done a very good job of educating me about the treaty. And the Article 5 of the Point Elliott Treaty states that we'll have usual access to our usual and accustomed areas to hunt, gather, fish, and cultivate similar to our ancestors. And that really does connect me to the history of our people and to know what the values of our community members were in the past, so that I can help to protect those rights for future generations. And I can advocate for those things now. So it's amazing to be here. Thank you all for your time and your energy.
It's amazing to have you here. I can't let you get away before you tell me about this amazing school that you are helping to put together that will address a lot of the issues that you talked about.
Thank you. I want to thank Cindy Ruther, who's the executive officer at WIHS, for nominating me for this award. Here's the award. And I would like to thank the Washington Charter School Commission for approving our application. That was a very rigorous process, and it took a lot of long discussions and nights and evenings to complete the application. And I'm very grateful that our community was able to gather for this type of educational system and systematic change. I want to thank the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools and those that are being awarded the 30 Under 30 Changemakers Award. So the school that we started, we helped co-found, is called Whatcom Intergenerational High School, and it should be opening this fall in 2021. The school is based on the pillars of intergenerational learning, which means that you'd be learning with elders, adults, students, and youth. And then the phenomena-based learning aspect means that a person will, if they have an interest in something in the world, then they're able to go and study their interest. The third part of the school is called critical literacy. And so that means that you're able to read and you're able to write and you're able to understand what you're reading and comprehend it and explain it to somebody, but you're also able to go out into the world and research what you're interested in through the phenomenal-based learning and then write about it so that you're able to educate other people about what you're learning. And the fourth principle is place-based. So that's where we work on educating people about the Coast Salish inhabitants who are on our land now to this day. We're still here. And the pillars are all grounded in the First Peoples principles of learning. So as a brief summary, it includes respect, reciprocity, and understanding of our interconnectedness with all things, and that we are the advocates for nature and the environment that we are leaving to the next generations, and to look to our ancestors for guidance. And that's very empowering because it's very difficult to be raised in a community where there's a lot of systemic racism. So people won't personally be racist to me, especially with my blonde hair and my pale skin, but you see it, you know, there's a lot of experiences that are in the community that I would try to advocate for, and people would say, no, that's not happening. That's not real. And so this kind of gives us an opportunity to say, well, look at these documents that we have to show the systemic racism in our community. And now the health disparities that we're at in our current day situations, which I know about because I'm a tribal youth delegate on the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. And I've received a lot of information about the critical health conditions of Native peoples. And so say like a non-Native person's health rates are way up here and a Native person's health rates are at like the baseline or below the baseline. And so we want, that also contributes, it's from like historical trauma, which is a factor with educational rates. So that's why I'm really excited for this school, so that people will feel supported and able to continue their educational journey and learn about who they are and where they come from, as our late hereditary chief Salik Bill James would have wanted. And we'll be able to be interested in things that our people have done that were taken away from us and revitalize that, such as the language, weaving, our reef netting technology, and our canoeing culture. Those are things that keep us, that have kept us alive
Yes.
since time immemorial. And we're here today.
Sadie, you are phenomenal. It is such an honor to know you. Thank you for taking the time to explain so much about your culture, which is really the foundation of this country to all of us. We are grateful for it and for the many contributions of your ancestors and of yours. We cannot wait to see all the more things that you will do, because you are clearly a leader. So honored to know you. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Aishka.
So this is the formal end to our program, but I just want to take a moment to thank again all of our fantastic 30 under 30 change makers, those who you were able to learn about in videos, and those who were able to join us here today. Thanks again, Kyle and Lauren and Mari and Sadie and Kalyn. Thank you all so much. You guys are phenomenal. And I also want to make sure, while I got your attention, that I thank my fantastic team at the Alliance. You guys are awesome. I want to shout out and thank Marlene. I hope she's on and hears it. She is the person behind those beautiful 30 awards that you have, the 30 under 30 awards. So thank you for that. Thank you also to Kim and Melinda and Brittany and Patty for all of the things that they did to help make this award ceremony awesome. And thank you guys for all that you do. You are so, so cool. And you better believe we are going to stay in touch with you, because we want to do much, much more with you. Thank you guys.